In today's video, I'm going to go over the Oshkosh NOTAM VFR arrival procedures into the Oshkosh Airport for the 2024 Airventure Air Show. Hi there, my name is Heather Monthie, and in this video, we're going to go over the Oshkosh NOTAM, just a little bit about what it is that you need to know. Just for some reference, I actually am from that area of the world, and I did my flight training in Oshkosh, so I'm very familiar with the airspace there. I did do a Class D Oshkosh airspace analysis video that I will link in the description, and we'll be also doing a airspace analysis for the Green Bay Airport, the Appleton Airport, and the Fond du Lac Airport, as those are the alternates that are listed in the NOTAM. So make sure you check out those videos in the description. So the Oshkosh NOTAM is a document. It is a hefty document. It is like 32 pages, I think it is. It is a hefty document. You can download it here on this website, on the EAA's website. They've got, it's 32 pages. And it's got all of the different arrival and departure procedures based on what type of aircraft you are. In this video, we are going over the general aviation VFR arrival procedures that brings you in over FISC. Okay. That's what we're going to talk about today. So you can go to the EA's website. You can download a digital copy of the NOTAM here, and then you can also request a paper copy if you would like. But you can certainly, print it up. I do suggest printing it one-sided. Don't print it double-sided. I think it's easier in the aircraft when you're bringing this with you. It's easier in the aircraft to be able to get stuff. That's just personal preference. So you got to decide what's best for you. Now, on the EAA's website, they do have a couple of different videos here that are pretty good. You can see what some of these things look like from the sky. So when you're coming in over FISC, you can see what the railroad tracks look like and that kind of thing. I'm actually going to bring up Google Maps, the satellite view on Google Maps. You'll get a PDF version of the NOTAM here. So like I said, today we're going to go over the VFR arrival procedures. I do suggest that if you are coming in to Oshkosh VFR, that you should read through this whole NOTAM. You should understand what everyone else is doing. Even if it doesn't apply to you, as you're coming in, if you have to hold, you see traffic coming in a way that wasn't necessarily part of your specific arrival procedure, you'll know either A, what they're doing. They might be IFR traffic, they might be warbirds, it might be turbine, they might be a seaplane. It could be a couple of different things. But then also you could okay, they're not doing anything that was listed in the NOTAM. So it really just helps you with that situational awareness. Okay, this is what my arrival procedure is, but I also know what the other aircraft's arrival procedures are so that when I do see them in the sky, I know what to expect and to see what they're doing. So you got the Oshkosh NOTAM here. There's a couple of different changes here for 2024 that they do specifically call out on the front page. The first is TFR in Milwaukee. It's for the Republican National Convention. There's a TFR in Milwaukee from July 15th to July 18th. Now, this NOTAM does go into effect July 18th at noon Central Daylight Time. So there's going to be a little bit of overlap there on the 18th. If you come in before the 18th, this NOTAM won't be in effect just yet, but there will be a TFR in Milwaukee airspace. There is a new FISC holding procedure in page 9, which we will review that. And then on Thursday, so FISC arrivals start at 7 a.m., but on Thursday, July 25th, there's going to be no FISC arrivals before 8 a.m. I haven't exactly figured out why. It doesn't necessarily matter. You just can't come in before 8 a.m. And then also, it's important to note that this particular notice does not supersede any other restrictions contained in other FTC NOTAMs. So if there are other NOTAMs out there, you do need to be aware of them. You do need to know what they are. This NOTAM does not supersede this. So I'm recording this video on May 24th, 2024. Yeah, again, 1,000 things can change between now and when you fly into Oshkosh. So make sure you are staying up to date on different NOTAMs. Make sure you are using the correct VFR charts. I'm going to be using SkyVector for this video. A new VFR sectional chart does come out between now, May 24th, and the air show. So again, make sure you're using the correct VFR sectional charts, whether they are in ForeFlight or whatever app you're using, or if you're using printed charts. So page 2, they've got some pre-flight planning tips here for you. You can certainly read through this on your own, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of different things. So you should be prepared to land at an alternate airport. So If you are intending to fly into Oshkosh, you want to camp there, you want to park there, you should be prepared to divert to either Fond du Lac, Appleton, or Green Bay. And like I said, I will do an airspace analysis, just general, what is the airspace like around those particular airports outside of the air show, outside of this NOTAM. And I'll link to those when those are ready. I'll link to those in the description. But those are the airports that if you divert to those particular airports, there is transportation to get you to Oshkosh. Fond du Lac is a non-towered airport normally. There will be a temporary control tower in Fond du Lac for the duration of this particular NOTAM. Appleton is a class Delta, so there is a control tower, then Green Bay is class Charlie. So make sure that you are aware of those airports in your pre-flight planning. You've got frequencies available, you know where to find them, that kind of thing. And then if you are in a VFR flight plan, you do divert, make sure that you do let flight service know. So it's important to note that beginning on Thursday, July 18th, when this NOTAM goes into effect, that Oshkosh is closed to all arriving aircraft from 8 p.m. until 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time the next morning, except for Thursday, which there's going to be no arrivals before 8 a.m., no FISC arrivals before 8 a.m. So if you are intending to come in later at night, you will not be able to get in Oshkosh. The airport will be closed. So you'll need to go to either a different airport or, reschedule your flight planning so that you're coming in at a time when the airport is open. Sometimes during the day, they will close the airport. There's just either a parking saturation issue, the airspace is saturated, there's a TFR, there's an air show, there's, something else is going on. So there are times during that, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. time where you will not be able to get in the airport. Obviously, during the air show, you're not going to be able to get in. And then there are times where that airspace will just get saturated or even the ground will become saturated. There's just no parking available. They will close the airport. So make sure again that you have that alternate already planned for in mind that you're going to go there. If the airport's full, there's no parking available and you have to fly to Fond du Lac, Appleton, or Green Bay and then take transportation in, just know that people do come and go throughout the week. So let's say you come in on Tuesday and everything is full, and then you can try again on Wednesday to get in, because people do leave. There's sort of this like a lot of people will come in on the weekend and then they'll leave Tuesday or Wednesday, but then you'll get a new group of people coming in like Tuesday or Wednesday for the next weekend. So, just because you don't get in on one particular day doesn't mean you won't be able to get in maybe the next day. So obviously there is a TFR during the air show itself. So the TFR is within a 5 nautical mile radius of Whitman Regional, all the way up to 16,000 feet MSL. The TFR information is going to be posted here at tfr.faa.gov. But right now, they've got the times for the TFR Monday through Saturday, the air show, 2:15 to 6:30. Generally, they open up the airport within 30 minutes or so after the air show is completed. There is a night air show on Wednesday and Saturday. So again, you're not going to be able to land at, after 8 p.m. regardless, but there will be a TFR to, if you're trying to fly over or fly into the airspace, you won't be able to do that. And then on Sunday, the air show is just a little bit of a different time. It runs a little earlier on Sundays. Now let's talk a little bit about aircraft parking. So there's different types of parking based on the type of aircraft you have. So parking for the show planes, which are the experimental, warbird, rotorcrafts, amphibian, and production aircraft manufactured prior to 1971, so antiques. They're available throughout the air show. There's also general aviation parking as well. So which I'm assuming that most of you watching this video fall into that category. So you'll want to make sure that you check this website before you leave. It's going to give you some information. If sections are full, if there's space available, check that before you even leave and take off. And, make sure you check ATIS 125.9 that will have parking availability information if necessary. And they do have a note here that some of the aircraft camping and parking areas have changed for 2024. So if you have flown into Oshkosh before and you want to go to a specific area, just make sure you follow the ground crew where they're marshaling you to, because they will bring you to the locations currently in use. So just because you were in one place one year doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get in the following years. So when you land in Oshkosh, you need to use a printed sign to intend where you want to park. So when you get on the ground, you're not going to talk to ground control. There's going to be people on the ground with vests and sticks, and they're going to be marshaling you where you need to go based on the sign that you have in your aircraft. So you can go to this website, eaa.org/signs to make a sign. I literally just made this particular this sign right here in Google Docs. I printed it. It's 291 font, bolded. So like you can see here, I just changed it to landscape, 291 font, bold Arial font. Now it needs to be big like this. It needs to be big like this because you're going to put it in your aircraft window and the people on the ground, the volunteers on the ground are going to see that and know exactly where it is that you want to go. They'll get you to that particular area. And then in that area, there'll be other people that are there to actually park you and find a parking spot. Okay. Now, here's the thing. What you don't want to do is just take a sheet of paper and use like a blue ballpoint pen and just write these out. You don't want to do that. It's very difficult to see from the ground. There's, sun glares. You don't want people to have to come up super close to your aircraft to be able to see it. Um, so what I do suggest is like, let's say you printed this and you're like, oh, wait, I made a mistake, or I changed my mind. I want to go somewhere else. Make sure you have like a Sharpie permanent marker like this with you. And then what you can do is you can literally like make this sign using a Sharpie. Okay. And make sure it's dark. The letters are big. They're easy to read. If you just take like a ballpoint, just a regular ballpoint pen and just write it out, it's going to be very difficult for the ground crew to see. So in addition, the general aviation camping and general aviation parking, you could put, on here, you could put an N or an S to indicate that you want the North 40 or the South 40. Again, those requests are not going to be guaranteed. The North 40 does fill up. So depending on when you get there, there may or may not be space available in the North 40. And then when you depart, we're not going to go over the departure procedures in this particular video, but when you depart, you're going to have a similar sign to this, but you're going to have in there, whether you're VFR or IFR, that's going to help the ground crew as well when you are doing your departure procedures. And then there is a short code here that you can text to get arrival or updates on the current status of Airventure arrivals. I suggest subscribing to that now. I've subscribed to it every year. I got a new phone. And I tried subscribing to it this morning and I'm having some error messages. So I do need to contact my cell phone provider because it seems like they are blocking messages from these short codes, probably due to spam. So I would suggest that if you are intending on flying to Oshkosh, even if you haven't looked at this NOTAM, make sure you subscribe to this now, because if you do have issues, it just gives you a little bit of time to work through it. All right, so now let's go over some of the VFR planning guidance that the NOTAM provides for you as you're trying to get to Northeast Wisconsin. You're trying to get to checkpoints to start the arrival procedures. Okay. So if you are coming in from the west, so what this document here is showing you is that there's a lot of MOAs in western central Wisconsin. This obviously this chart is not to be used for navigation. There's several different MOAs in the western part of the state. So if you look at the VFR sectional chart here, like a large portion of west central Wisconsin is covered under a MOA. So you want to make sure that you take a look at this particular document here. It's going to give you some VFR traffic routes that help you avoid those MOAs. Okay, whether you're coming in from the northwest or the southwest here. So you can take a look at that, and it brings you in to your checkpoints here. And then Madison Airport is a Class Charlie airport southwest of Oshkosh down here. So Oshkosh is right here. Madison is down here. So you've got this Class Charlie airspace southwest of Oshkosh. This is intended to provide you some guidance that if you are VFR traffic transitioning around the Madison airspace, they're giving you some guidance on actually where to go so that you can avoid that Madison Class Charlie airspace. So we've got a couple of VFR checkpoints. You can use those to navigate around the Madison Class Charlie airspace. We've got the same thing here for Green Bay. Green Bay is another Class Charlie airspace that is northeast of Oshkosh. So you've got Oshkosh right here. You've got Oshkosh right here, and then Green Bay is the Class Charlie that is to the northeast of the airport. So again, in the NOTAM, they've provided you some routes around that Class Charlie airspace. Now over here, there is a note here that if you are crossing Lake Michigan, so again, if you come over here, you can see Oshkosh is very close to Lake Michigan. So if you're going to cross the lake, they've got, you can contact Green Bay Approach Control at 120.2 when north of this line. So it's the line between Appleton and Manitowoc. So if you're crossing Lake Michigan, you're going to cross Lake Michigan over here, and you're north of Appleton to Manitowoc here. This is the Manitowoc Airport right there. You're north of that line. You can contact that frequency for some flight following over the lake. And then the same thing down here for Milwaukee. Milwaukee is south of Oshkosh. It is another Class Charlie airport, and there are a couple of different Class Delta airports in that particular area. So you've got Milwaukee Timmerman, you've got Waukesha, and then you've got Racine. So if we come over here to the sectional, come down here to Milwaukee, there's a couple of different, you've got Racine right here, then you've got Waukesha, Milwaukee Timmermans right there. So they want you to avoid that particular airspace as well. So they've provided you a couple of different routes that you can go through. You can come over here through Burlington, up through to Hartford. So it keeps you clear of that Milwaukee airspace. And then if you are transitioning from the south to the north through the Chicago Class Bravo airspace, there are a couple of different procedures here listed for you as well. There's some frequencies listed for you for aircraft at or below 5,000 feet, depending on where you are in that Chicago Class Bravo airspace. Pilots are urged to use the VFR flyway planning chart for the Chicago area. It's complex airspace. We're not going to go into that in this particular video. But if you are flying above 5,500 feet for VFR services, north of O'Hare, you can use this frequency. South of O'Hare, you can use that frequency. Again, these frequencies here are for at or below 5,000 feet. And now let's talk about the actual Fisk VFR arrival into Oshkosh. So this is the procedure that's going to be used by all VFR traffic landing in Oshkosh between Thursday at noon and then Monday, July 29th, except that those that are using the turbine, warbird, ultralight, or Nord arrival. So, and then a reminder, before 8 a.m. July 25th, there is no Fisk arrivals. So your procedure is actually going to start by using one of the ATC designated transitions to Ripon. So Ripon is a city 15 nautical southwest of Oshkosh. All right, so here's Oshkosh. Right here is Ripon. So Ripon is 15 nautical miles southwest of the airport. This is where the arrival procedure is going to start. So what you're going to do is you're going to use one of these transitions. There's transitions in this area right here that's going to get you to Ripon and then ultimately up to Fisk. Okay. So when you are reading these procedures, you want to make sure that you understand all of the different procedures for these checkpoints here. So on this Fisk arrival to Oshkosh document here, make sure you read all. If you are not comfortable flying into Oshkosh, please consider flying into Fond du Lac or Appleton and taking that public transportation to Oshkosh. I used to work at the Appleton airport during the air show. I worked there year round, but I was there during the air show. There were plenty of people that flew into Appleton because they did not want to deal with the traffic in Oshkosh. We'd rather you get there safely. So if you feel like you're planning this and you're like, I'm not necessarily certain on this just yet, fly into Appleton, fly into Fond du Lac, totally okay. So now when you start arriving and getting close to Oshkosh, in that area of the VFR arrival procedure, you want to make sure that you have your lights on, within 50 nautical of Oshkosh. You're going to leave your transponder on throughout the approach. You're going to tune into ATIS 125.9, no later than 60 miles from the Oshkosh airport. And then you're going to note arrival runways in use. So there's runway 927 and then 1836. You're going to note which ones are being used. Then from there, you're going to monitor Fisk approach at 120.7. You're going to arrive at a transition starting point, okay? And we'll go over those transition starting points in a second. But you're going to arrive at that starting point going at 90 knots and 1,800 feet, okay? So if you're unable to comfortably operate at 90 knots, so if you're slower than that, you should use your maximum cruise speed. ATC does recommend arrival between 7 and 7:30 a.m. Central Time, if practical, if you are a slower aircraft. And then faster aircraft that cannot operate at 90 knots can operate at 135 knots, but should go up to 2,300 feet, okay? and then you're going to expect to start to descend at Fisk. So now you're going to begin your procedure at the ATC designated transition point. We'll go over those in a second. ATC will advise the transition starting point on the arrival ATIS. So when you're listening to ATIS, it'll tell you where to go, which one of those transition points to fly to. Real-time changes may be made on Fisk approach frequency though. So ATIS may have one thing and you start monitoring Fisk approach, there may be something else in there. Then what you're going to want to do is pick out an aircraft of similar type and speed, and you're going to just follow it. So again, remember, you have aircraft going at 90 knots at 1,800 feet or 135 knots at 2,300 feet. Okay. And it's real easy to see the other aircraft. There's a lot of aircraft around. So it's really easy to see them. You want to obviously see and avoid, but you want to pick an aircraft and follow it. Remain at least a half a mile behind that particular aircraft. Don't fly side by side unless you're part of a flight, and then you don't want to overtake another aircraft, and you don't want to do S turns. You want to make sure that you break off the procedure, proceed back to the starting point, and then find a different aircraft that you're able to follow. All right, let's talk about the transitions. So the Endeavor Bridge transition, this starts at the city of Endeavor. It's 47 miles southwest of Oshkosh, and it's going to be used during extremely high volumes of traffic. So when the weather's really good, it's the weekend. That's when traffic gets really high. And then there are certain times of the week that there's just a lot of traffic coming in. So they'll have traffic come out a little bit further west. So that's when the Endeavor Bridge transition will be used. So that bridge is located, if you look for Packwaukee right here, that's the bridge right here. So if I zoom out just a little bit, we've got Puckaway Lake here, we've got Green Lake here. So there is this bridge right here. So if you look for this Highway 39, it's an interstate, and then look for the river here, you'll be able to find that bridge very easily. You can also use this visual point for your GPS as well. So I like this statement here. There are few visual reference points on this transition between Endeavor and Puckaway Lake. A 095 track for 11 miles is good reference. So here again is that bridge, and then the lake. So like I said, flying in the Midwest, everything's pretty well perpendicular here. You can follow this road here for a little bit. There's really not much else to follow. You should be able to see this lake, depending on the visibility. You should be able to see this lake. Now, the Puckaway Lake transition is going to start at the southwest corner of Puckaway Lake. I'm going to give you some directional information here. You're going to proceed to this point to the southwest corner of Green Lake. So again, like I said, remember, you're always using the southwest corners of these lakes. So when you're up in the air, this is what's going to look like. You're looking at the southwest corner of Puckaway Lake, southwest corner of Green Lake here. If we come over to the sectional, you can see that the checkpoints have actually been put on the southwest corners of the lake. So you got Endeavor Bridge right here, flying over to the southwest corner of Puckaway Lake, southwest corner of Green Lake. You can see those listed here. Now let's talk about the Green Lake transition. Again, we got some directional information here. You're going to proceed single file from the southwest corner of Green Lake to the city of Ripon. Okay. So you got Ripon right here. You've got a visual point here that you can put in your GPS. Then Fisk via the railroad tracks. Okay. So if we come over here to Google Maps, this is what you're going to see from the sky, right? So you've got Green Lake. You're going to transition up to Ripon. Okay. Ripon's a small city here. And then from there, you're going to follow the railroad tracks to Fisk. This is Fisk up here. Okay. Now, railroad tracks in the Midwest almost always have a tree line surrounding them. So you can see here on Google Maps on the satellite view, I don't know if I can zoom in well enough here, but you can see there's trees following this railroad track. You don't want to follow Highway 44. You want to follow these railroad tracks. This is where everybody is looking. This is where people are looking for you. You're going to follow that railroad track all the way up to Fisk. Okay. So if we come and look at it on the VFR sectional chart, you're going to follow from Green Lake, stay on the south side of Green Lake, all the way up to Ripon. And then from Ripon, you're going to follow the railroad tracks up to Fisk. You'll see Rush Lake off to your left-hand side over here. So when you're flying from Ripon to Fisk, if holding is not in progress, you're going to proceed to the northeast corner of Ripon. Proceed single file directly over the railroad tracks from Ripon to Fisk. Remain at least 1/2 mile behind any aircraft that you are following. Do not overtake, do not S-turn. If you need to break off the procedure, proceed back to that starting point that you were at and then follow another aircraft of similar speed. The NOTAM asks that, if possible, lower your landing gear prior to arriving at Fisk. So prior, as you're flying from Ripon to Fisk here, they do want you to lower your landing gear if that is something that you need to do. Now, this statement here, the small town of Pickett is about 4 miles from Fisk. You will see steam from the grain drying facility. After this point, listen very carefully for air traffic control instructions directed at your aircraft. Okay. So if you zoom in here, very, very, very small town, but you can see just sort of what it looks like, and you may see the steam from the grain drying facility. So, the small town of Pickett, at this point, you're going to listen very carefully for the air traffic control. So, about right here, or so is where you're going to start listening for air traffic control. Provide instructions directed to your aircraft. So, when you get to Fisk, controllers will call your aircraft by the color and type if they can tell what it is. No verbal responses are required, but if you don't understand their instructions or you need any clarifications, you can request those instructions on frequency. When you are in the immediate vicinity of Fisk, so you are less than 2 miles within Fisk, ATC will issue a runway assignment to you. So again, it's going to be either 927, 1836. Those are that are used. Air traffic control will issue that runway assignment transition to the airport and the appropriate tower frequency that they want you to monitor. So you are not to proceed beyond Fisk or change to tower frequency without an ATC authorization. So by the time you get to Fisk, you should have heard a transmission from air traffic control directed at your aircraft on runway you have been assigned to and which tower frequency that you should monitor. So your runway assignments for the airport, so air traffic control is going to tell you, follow the railroad tracks northeast, or reaching Fisk, turn right and follow the east-west road, which is Fisk Avenue. Okay. So let's go over here to Google Maps. So when you get to Fisk right here, you're going to be told to follow the railroad tracks northeast. These are, again, same railroad tracks. Okay. So you've probably been directed to use runway 927, either one of those, or you're going to make a 90-degree right turn when you get to Fisk, and you're going to follow this road right here. This is Fisk Avenue. Okay. You don't want to follow Highway 44 here. You want to follow Fisk Avenue right here. Again, you should be able, depending on visibility, you should be able to see the airport from here. It might be marginal. But this road right here, Fisk Avenue, just comes right through to the south end of runway 36. Okay. So you're just going to follow that particular road into the airport. So again, when you get to Fisk, you're either going to get directions on flying northeast following the railroad tracks, or you're going to make a 90-degree turn to the east and you're going to follow Fisk Road right here. Okay. So if we come over to the sectional chart, you're not necessarily going to see, you'll see the railroad tracks, but you will not see Fisk Road on the sectional chart. But just note that when you get to Fisk, 90 degrees to the east, there is that road here that comes right to the south end of runway 36. So on this Fisk VFR arrival to Oshkosh page 9 here, I did go over a lot of this. You can read through it here, some extra guidance for you and understanding there's a waiver in place so that multiple people can be landing on the runway at the same time. So you want to make sure that you read through that. Now, the Fisk holding procedures, this is new for this year. So for holding, air traffic controllers at Fisk will advise on 120.7 when holding is necessary. Aircraft over Fisk will be instructed to turn westbound, remain single file north of the lakes, and return to the ATC designated starting point to begin the procedure again. See map on page 5. This is why I would say print it up, spread it out on your desk, on your floor, on your table, whatever. Okay. So what's going to happen? You arrive at Fisk and you're advised that you need to hold. And you're going to go back to the transition point that ATC advises you of. So it's either going to be Green Lake, Puckaway Lake. So you're going to follow those holding procedures depending on where it is that they send you to. So aircraft that are at or beyond Ripon, you're going to continue to Fisk and enter the Rush Lake holding pattern as described. So if you're at or beyond Ripon, If you're at or beyond Ripon, you're going to enter the Rush Lake holding pattern. So again, remember Rush is sort of this like swampy area, can be difficult to see. So you'll approach Fisk here, and then you'll stay to the north side of the lake, come around. You're going to be doing left-hand turns in your hold. Aircraft approaching Ripon on the Green Lake transition says watch for traffic to follow and enter the hold at Green Lake as depicted. So we've got this Green Lake hold here. Again, same thing, left turns only. You're going to turn here left to the north side of the lake, come back around to the south side of the lake. I've done this hold. It's very easy to see other aircraft there. The lake is large. So when you're in the hold, it's going to be the same as when you are entering in the arrival procedure. You're going to maintain 90 knots or max cruise speed if you're below 90 knots and 1,800 feet MSL. If you're unable, you're going to maintain 135 knots and 2,300 feet MSL. So when you're in these holds, you may see people at different altitudes depending on what airspeed they're flying at. This is where I'm saying it's very important to read the whole NOTAM, because you may see people that you have no idea what they're doing, and you can keep an extra eye on them. It's maybe obvious that either they're lost or maybe they're just confused what's going on. You want to make sure that you stay on top of that. So the holding patterns can get to capacity. All right. So all of these different procedures have been put in place. Down here, all these different holding procedures can be put in place. But on days where there's really great weather, it's a busy day, those holding patterns can get full, and air traffic control will advise you not to come near the transition areas, to stay clear and proceed no further. And so what they're saying here is instead make left turns over a point on the ground and continue to hold until air traffic control advises you to proceed or transition to one of the published holding patterns. So coming back down here, if you're trying to get into the Green Lake hold, you're trying to get into the Rush Lake hold, and they've advised you that the holding patterns are full, stay clear. They just want you to come out here, find a point, and just do some turns around point and waiting for that airspace to clear up. So when you are cleared to leave the holding pattern and rejoin the transition into the arrival procedure, depending on which hold you're in, Rush Lake, Green Lake, or Puckaway Lake, you're going, like Rush Lake, you're going to rejoin the railroad tracks at the southeast corner of Rush Lake. At Green Lake, you're going to, at the southeast corner, proceed directly to Ripon. And then at Puckaway Lake, upon reaching the southwest corner of Puckaway Lake, proceed towards the transition. So if we come back over here, let's go back up here. This is why I always say to print it. You're gonna go once you get to the southeast corners of the lake, you're gonna exit that hold and then continue on with the procedures. So this is going to be the Fisk VFR arrival into Oshkosh runway 9. So if you've been cleared if you've been assigned runway 9, this is the procedure that you can. So you're following those railroad tracks in from Fisk at 1,800 feet MSL, right? So we're following these railroad tracks in from Fisk. Right here, these are the railroad tracks. We're following them in from Fisk at 1,800 feet. You can see that's going to bring us into runway 927. Okay. So when you're coming in for runway 9, it's important to note, you're going to come in and you're going to do a right-hand turn into the approach to runway 9. It is important to note that there can be traffic coming in from the west, as there might be some IFR arrivals coming in. And then also from the north, there could be some turbine or warbird arrivals in the traffic pattern. So as always, you always want to maintain situational awareness, but by understanding this particular NOTAM, you know to expect as you're coming in, you're flying on a northeasterly heading, that that from the west, there you could be seeing some IFR arrival aircraft, and then from the north, you could see some turbine and warbird arrivals. So you want to make sure that you understand that as well. So you're going to come in here on runway 9. On runway 927, you have the white dot, the green dot, and the orange dot. So if we go over here to Google Maps, you can actually see what it looks like. Like they literally just paint these huge dots on the runway. If you've never been to Oshkosh, this is what they do. We've got the white dot, the green dot, and the orange dot. Okay. So you can see right on the runway there. So you will be cleared to land on a particular area They do have the runway 9 landing distances. So how much depending on where you've been cleared to land and whether you're landing at the threshold or you're landing at the white dot, they do tell you how much usable runway you have left. So if you're landing runway 9, you're likely landing either at the threshold or on the white dot here. So after you land, speed permits. If your aircraft is under 6,250 pounds, you're going to exit runway 9 to the left or to the right, depending. There's going to be some ground crew down there. They'll be directing you. You do not want to back taxi on the runway. There's other airplanes coming in behind you. Do not turn around. Do not back taxi. And then you want to be alert. We'll look for different cones, look for different flags. There's people walking around. Make sure that you are alert of what's happening on the ground there. Then after you get on the ground, this is where you're going to want to make sure that you have your sign in your windshield so that the person that is on the ground that is going to help you park, they know where it is that you want to go. And then congratulations, welcome to Oshkosh. And then let's talk about the Fisk VFR arrival procedure into runway 27. So same thing, you're coming in from Fisk on a northeasterly heading at 1,800 feet MSL. You're going to enter a right traffic pattern for runway 27. This keeps you clear of runway 1836 here. Okay, so you're going to stay north of runway 927. And they've got a couple different visuals here. So if you go back over to Google Maps, this gravel pit right here is a really good checkpoint here. You're going to become right over 20th Avenue, maybe a little bit further north, depending on how you fly your traffic patterns, but you're going to be right in that particular area. One thing they do not want you to do is to cross over into the lake. So you got Lake Winnebago over here, huge lake. They do not want you to cross back into the lake. There's other traffic that's out there for various reasons. So when you're coming in here, so you're going to begin your descent at midfield, right? And then you're going to make your base turn to final turn here. Note that there could be IFR turbine and warbird arrivals coming in from over there. You do not go out into the lake unless you've been advised by ATC. Now, so again, they've got the different landing distances here based on where you've been cleared to land. We've got the orange dot and the green dot. So if you're landing runway 27, you could land on the threshold right here, the orange dot or the green dot, and they've got the different runway links available for you. Same thing, when you get onto the ground, if you're under 6,250 pounds, you're going to exit to the left or the right, depending on how you've been directed. You're going to have your sign in the window, and they're going to help you get to where it is that you want to go. And welcome to Oshkosh. Now let's talk about the Fisk VFR arrival procedure into Oshkosh runway 18 right. So there's runway 1836, which is generally the runway that's available year round. There is a nice taxiway alongside runway 1836 that they do turn in to 36 right, 18 left. Okay, so depending on where you're landing here, this is the arrival for runway 18 right. What I do notice here, they do got a couple, like this arrival requires a short approach and a long landing. So because of some of the other traffic that's happening here, and then we've got runway 927, that you do need to stay short of this particular blue dot, the air traffic control towers right here. They want you to stay short of that particular area. So it says to turn base abeam the blue dot. If unable, make an immediate right turn to the southeast for resequencing. So if you're unable to turn your base here, a beam to that blue dot. Again, the air traffic control tower is aligned right up to it. If you can't make that turn, what they want you to do is make an immediate right turn to the southeast. So come back around this way for immediate resequencing. Okay. And again, we've got the landing distances here based on where you're landing. You've got the blue dot and the pink dot. So if we come back over here, landing on runway 18, you've got the blue dot, and then you've got the pink dot right there. So they're huge. You'll be able to see them. So as you're coming in, what you'll be doing is you'll be coming in off of Fisk Avenue here. So again, remember Fisk Avenue right here brings you into the south side of runway 36. So you'll come in and then you'll come back around to runway 18 for your landing. Okay. And then we've got the Fisk VFR arrival to Oshkosh runway 36 left and right. Okay. So from Fisk, same thing. You're over here coming in off of Fisk Avenue down here. You got your Fisk Avenue right here. You're coming in, you're seeing, south-ish of Fisk Avenue right alongside there. That keeps you out of this ultralight area right here. And then again, you're flying at 1800 MSL, but also note that there could be turbine and warbird arrivals coming in from the east. Okay. So they're either going to come in to join you on final for 3-6 left here, or 3-6 right, depending on which one is being used, which one you've been cleared to, whatever. But this is the procedure that you'll bring. You'll come in, you'll make your left hand turn into final for runway 36, either left or right. Aircraft landing on runway 36 left must not roll beyond the blue dot without specific tower authorization. So you've got that blue dot right here. Again, this is the sort of the displaced threshold for temporarily for the air show. They do not want you to go past this. There's a lot of other things happening over here, so they don't want you to go past that blue dot. Aircraft landing on runway 36 right can expect to land long and roll to the end for parking. Do not turn left unless advised by ATC. If so, you must hold short of runway 36 left until cleared by 126.6 or pink shirt Oshkosh control. What that means, if you land on 36 right, which is this taxiway right here that's been transitioned into a runway, you're going to land, you're going to roll to the end of the runway. You are not going to turn left because you've got another active runway over here. Okay. And so if you do have to cross that particular runway, you are going to be advised on 126.6. The Oshkosh controllers wear a bright pink shirt. They're very easy to see. They're very easy to pick out. So if you see somebody in that shirt, that is a Oshkosh controller. All right. So that is a overview of the VFR arrival procedures into Oshkosh for the air show 2024, reviewing the NOTAM. Like I said earlier, read the entire NOTAM, print this thing up. I have it all spread out. I had it all spread out on my kitchen table. I actually, when I lived alone and was planning my flights into Oshkosh, I would just spread it all out on the living room floor and make notes on things and write things, because there's a couple of places where you have to refer back to other charts and all that kind of stuff. So it does make it easier. You are the pilot in command. Ultimately, you are the pilot in command. You are responsible for the safety of your aircraft. And I always think that this is a good time to remember: aviate, navigate, communicate. All right. Fly your airplane. Be safe. Take control. You have this is a fantastic opportunity to fly into probably the busiest airport in the world at the time. And it's an exciting experience. It is definitely a bucket list item for the majority of pilots to fly into Oshkosh. I'm so thankful that I grew up in the area, did my flying lessons in the area. When I would fly into Oshkosh, I would actually have to fly out so that I could fly in and do the arrival procedure. Don't be afraid to divert to a different airport. You can go to any airport, any one of these airports that are here, okay? Fond du Lac, Appleton, and Green Bay, there's going to be public transportation that'll help get you there. But maybe sometimes what you want to do is fly into a different airport and just kind of get yourself back together. So the first time I flew into Oshkosh, I actually flew out and I came out and landed here in Wapaka. I flew out and then landed in Wapaka because I had to fly out to fly in, right? Landed in Wapaka, got all my stuff together, checked the weather, and just kind of get your stuff together, calm down, calm your nerves. And then, all right, it's go time. So don't feel like you have to immediately, you're coming in, you might be tired, you might have to go to the bathroom, whatever it might be. Don't feel like you can't stop at some of these other airports first. Collect yourself, get yourself together, and then come in for the arrival. So I hope this was helpful. Again, like I said, this is really just intended to help you understand the VFR arrival procedures, especially if you've never done it before, if you're brand new to this. Some of you who are watching this may already have flown into Oshkosh, and that's great. But really what I wanted to do is help those of you that have just never done this before and might be feeling a little bit anxious about it. Like, let's go through the NOTAM together. Thank you. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and then send this video to somebody that you think might find it helpful. It might be for somebody that is thinking about flying into Oshkosh for the first time. It might not be this year. Thank you. Talk to you in the next video.